Hi everyone, it's Marissa and Josh here from Rise High. How are you going today, Josh?
I'm well, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. And today we're coming live to you to answer all of your questions for first home buyers. We have received lots and lots of questions over the last few weeks from first home buyers, people that are looking to buy their first home. We have a big bowl full of questions that we're going to go through today, and we're going to go through each question and answer them live, aren't we, Josh?
Yep.
Excellent. So let's start with question number one. Do you want to do the honours and pick something out of the bowl, Josh? Drum roll, please.
All right, so question from Ryan. How do I increase my budget?
How do you increase your budget? Thank you for the question, Ryan. What do you think, Josh?
Well, first of all, I have to speak to your mortgage broker, and firstly working out what is your budget to begin with. So you want to be looking for houses within a particular range. Whether that's affordable, you might not know, but at least have a look. Another thing to consider is the repayment amount as well. Just because the bank says you can afford something, if the repayments are going to be too high for your lifestyle or for what you want, you might need to then reduce your purchase price.
That's great advice. You know, when you are looking to buy your first home, the first step is always to speak to a mortgage broker, and preferably the team at Rise High, to understand what your borrowing capacity is, because that's really going to drive your purchasing power. It's going to drive your budget, and there are lots of things you can do to increase your borrowing capacity, aren't there, Josh?
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the little tweaks that people can make to increase their borrowing capacity and increase their budget?
Yeah, exactly. So firstly, small things like credit cards or Afterpay, Zip Pay, closing off those can impact upon what the bank sees as your maximum borrowing capacity. So that's probably the first step, trying to cut out most of that discretionary spending. So whether that's your dining out, your retail shopping, entertainment, the sort of things that are more wants than needs. Trying to cut back on them as much as you can, really.
So there's a few levers you can pull to increase your borrowing capacity, increase your budget, and ultimately get you into your dream home.
For sure.
Excellent. Let's go to question number 2. Okay, this question is from Hayden. Hayden asks, what are the steps involved in buying a home from start to finish?
Yep. So, well, first of all, again, you want to speak to your ideally Rise High mortgage broker.
Step 1.
Step 2, and a part of our process is running through exactly what your ideal timeframes are. You know, you might be wanting to purchase right now. You might want to purchase within the next 6 to 12 months. Depending on that time frame, really dictates how we proceed moving forward. So if you're wanting to get things moving now, we'd ideally look to get a pre-approval application in place. We assist with that, making sure you choose the right lender, and then it'll be from there putting in offers and then trying to get that property accepted. From there it'll be getting the loan set up. So again, we can run through all of this in the initial meetings that we have, but it'll involve signing your loan documents, making sure you have the relevant insurances in place and you get in touch with the right people. And then once the loan's set up, we assist with ongoing support of that loan, making sure that you get settled into your property or get a tenant in if you're purchasing an investment. And we have that ongoing support to make sure that we hold the banks accountable, and make sure that you're on the lowest interest rate that you can be.
I think when you're buying your first home, you would understand this, Josh. It can be overwhelming. There are a lot of steps to go from where you are now to becoming a homeowner. So I think the real key here is to find a really amazing mortgage broker, Rise High mortgage broker, that can actually hold your hand through each stage of the journey, because it can become very simplified if you have that, if you have a Rise High mortgage broker on your team.
Yeah, for sure.
So, first step, get your mortgage broker, work out your borrowing capacity. They can help to navigate every step along the way, make sure everything goes smoothly, add really valuable advice and tips along the way as well, which will just really make your home buying journey so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's one of our main priorities, is to make this whole process as easy as possible and as enjoyable as possible.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, next question. We have a question from Brian. Is a pre-approval a good idea?
Simple answer, yes, but they're not absolutely necessary. So again, in that first meeting, we'll look at what some potential options are, working out what your borrowing capacity is, Ideally, you do want to get that pre-approval in, so then you know, yep, the bank has ticked off my expenses, my income, they're happy to give me a loan, and it does make your offer a lot more favourable as well when you are putting in offers, when you do have the finance backing there.
And in a market where it is hard to buy, it's hard to be a buyer, and you know there's low stock and negotiating can be tricky, having that pre-approval does give you the leg up.
Yep, for sure.
And put you that much forward in terms of how the real estate agent's going to present you to the vendor. So definitely a good option.
Yep, for sure.
And also necessary if you're ever going to bid at auction.
Yep, absolutely.
Because if you bid at auction, it is unconditional, which means you have to proceed if you are the successful bidder at auction, and you want to know that your finance has been approved before you proceed with your purchase.
Yep, spot on.
Okay, Josh, do you want to do the honours? Pull out the next question.
All right, so what do we have here? Okay, so from Laura, are there any first-time home buyer programs available or any government incentives available for first-time home buyers?
There's lots, isn't there, Josh?
There's
lots of different things. We will be discussing them at our upcoming How to Buy Your Home, Your First Home with Little or No Deposit seminar coming up very, very shortly. But do you want to just explain a few of them now, Josh?
Yeah. So probably the most well-known or most commonly used government grants. So we have the First Home Guarantee Scheme, which allows you to borrow up to 95% of the property purchase price and not have to pay any lender's mortgage insurance. So that's one that we assist clients with regularly. Another one is the First Homeowners Grant, which is $15,000 that you get essentially to help boost your deposit. That is only available for brand new homes or a land and build. And then the last one, which is probably more come up a bit more frequently now, is the stamp duty exemption. So again, these are all the government schemes, and that just avoids the need to pay stamp duty, again, for brand new homes or land and build.
But there's actually 10 strategies that you can use to buy your first home with little or no deposit.
Yep.
So to hear the full breadth of these, come along to our upcoming seminar where we're going to talk about all the ways that you can buy your first home with little or no deposit, which go through all the different schemes and grants and concessions that are available.
Yep.
So don't miss that one. That one's going to be great.
For sure.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Joanne, how do I determine my budget for buying a home? What would you say to Joanne,
Great
Josh?
question. Well, again, you want to come speak with your mortgage broker, ideally here at Rise Hire. The main things that the banks look at when you're looking at your borrowing capacity is obviously income, expenses, and then liabilities as well. So that's sort of the main three things that we look at from a borrowing capacity perspective. But then there's also the other side of how much savings or deposit you have as well. And we can probably speak about a few things later on. Hopefully there's a question about it, about what if you have low deposit but high borrowing. But that's the main things that we look at, as well as the banks. Every bank looks at your income and expenses and your liabilities differently.
Yes.
So that's why.
And that's the benefit, I guess,
Exactly.
of seeing a mortgage broker rather than going to the bank directly,
Spot
because
on.
we've got access to over 70 lenders that
Exactly.
we can look and see which lender is going to be best suited to an individual buyer.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, let's go to the next question. This one's a big one from Noah. As a fresh graduate who has recently entered the workforce, should I start investing in a house or wait until I'm more financially stable before starting the home buying process? That's a big one. Thanks, Noah.
Good question, Noah.
So as a fresh graduate, should Noah start investing in property or should he wait until he's more financially established?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I guess there's no perfect answer for it. In our world, we like to say, look, the sooner you can get into the property market, the better, because you're going to see the exponential growth of that.
Absolutely.
Once you do
Definitely.
get
And
in
I
the
think,
market.
if we've seen what the property market's done over the last few years, you'll know that the sooner you can get in, the better. Absolutely.
Yep, spot on.
So as soon as you can afford to get into the market, you should. Sometimes that means people are going down the rent vesting part. Or maybe they're buying their first home when they're still living with parents, which can also be a great way to do it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
if you can start investing in property, even if you're not ready to move out of home or move into your own place, it really sets you up for success in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
There's also some pretty cool low deposit and grant options for graduates, isn't there, Josh?
Yep, spot on. So we have a few lenders on our panel where if you meet their eligibility as a graduate, you can potentially purchase a property with 2% deposit plus fees, of course.
So that's pretty attractive.
Yep, for
so
sure.
Definitely we recommend getting in as soon as you can and benefiting from the growth in value that's going to come with that.
Definitely.
Okay, let's go with another question. Zoe, this is from Zoe. How can I improve my chances of getting approved for a home loan? Great question,
Great
Zoe.
question. Oh, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
So probably the three key things. One would be making sure that if you do have any current liabilities, whether that's a personal loan or a credit card, they're probably the main two that you might have before you get a home loan. Making sure that you stay on top of those repayments, because even one missed repayment that can show up negatively on your credit report, and not to say that you'll get the loan rejected, but it just might make it a little bit more trickier than it has to be. Showing strong savings is probably another one. If you're earning okay income but you have no savings, the bank might want to know, okay, where are these savings going then? And probably just trying to cut back on some of the spending that might not be as favourable towards the banks, whether that's gambling or excessive spending in the areas that I touched on previously in terms of dining out or your more discretionary retail spending as well.
And what if someone doesn't have necessarily a lot of savings, but they've been paying rent, regularly for their property?
Yep.
Like, is there a way that you can get around not having, a big pot of savings?
Yeah. So there is some cases where the banks might want to see what's called genuine savings, which is typically that they want to see that you can save, as proper savings 5% of the purchase price. Now, if you don't quite have that shown through direct savings, it can be shown through the rents that you're paying as well.
So there's lots of different ways. There's lots of ways to do this, isn't
exactly.
there?
Not
so
just,
many
not
different
just one
ways.
clear-cut way.
So there's not a yes or a no. There's so many different ways to
Exactly.
make your home ownership journey possible.
Yep.
Okay, Josh, take it away with the
Right.
next question.
Got one here from Jeremy. What are the ongoing costs with buying my first home?
Okay, there's a few ongoing costs,
There
isn't there? I
is,
mean,
there
I think
is.
people underestimate how much it is going to cost them when they move into their own space. So, there's things like your gas and your electricity
Yep.
and your water and
Council
council
rates.
rates. So there are some ongoing fees that you need to be aware of. There might be some maintenance.
Yep.
Potentially. So these are things that you should be incorporating in your budget. Maybe if you've been renting, you might have already experienced some of these things.
Yep.
But if you haven't been renting before and you're moving out of home independently for the first time, it can be a bit of a rude shock, can't
Yes,
it, Josh?
It can. Yep.
So, it's important that when you're looking at how much you can afford in terms of the house that you buy, you're not only taking into consideration the loan repayments, but also the ongoing costs of maintaining that home.
Yep, for sure. And that is one of the things that we take into account when we're looking at the affordability as well.
Yeah.
So even though you might not be paying insurances or council rates or utilities yet, we do take that into account to make sure that, firstly, you can afford it, and then the bank's going to be okay with that as well.
Excellent. Okay, next question. Let's go with Georgia asks, do I need a real estate agent? Thank you, Georgia. Well, I would say that most properties are sold by a real estate agent. So the first home buyer doesn't actually have a real estate agent representing them, but they are likely to have to deal with or negotiate with a real estate agent for the property that they want to purchase.
Yep, spot on.
Negotiating with real estate agents can be tricky business, can't it, Josh?
Yes, it can.
Some of them are very good at their jobs and like to play games, and that can be very intimidating or overwhelming for first home buyers.
Yep.
How do you help your first home buyer clients through that process, Josh?
So, as a part of our process, we want to make this as easy as possible for them. So, first thing I want to get clients to do is give me a call when you're putting in an offer. We can run through the offer form together. Firstly, to answer any questions that you might have, but secondly, to make sure that the offer you're putting forward is as favourable as possible to give you the best chance of getting it accepted.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to get our next question?
Yep. Okay, we've got one here from Sylvia. Do I need to have my own savings?
So I think in terms of Sylvia's question, do you need to have your own savings? Definitely having savings is very attractive to a lender, and it does give you more options in terms of which lender you choose and how you proceed forward. But we know, and we will explain in our upcoming seminar, that there are actually 5 ways to buy your first home without having any savings. So there are ways to proceed with buying your first home without savings if you've got the borrowing capacity through your employment income, but definitely having savings does help, and the more savings you have, the more choices you've got.
For sure.
So what I would say is that there's definitely options to proceed without savings, but your options in terms of lenders are more limited. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yeah, spot on there.
Yep, excellent. Okay, next question. Let's have a look. We've got Adriana. How long does the home buying process typically take, Josh?
That's a good question. So again, it does depend on your own situation. So some people, they might want to come to us and see what their borrowing power is right now, but don't want to purchase for 12 months.
Yes.
Some people are ready to go straight away. So it does depend on what your affordability is. Maybe you can't quite get there yet. Typically, it does take a few months start to finish. So, for example, when you're getting a pre-approval in place, they are valid for 3 months. So that does give you a nice period of time to go out and find a property. When you do get an offer accepted, the settlement period can range from 30 days to potentially 60 days, even 90 days for the really longer settlements. So from finding the property to actually settlement going through, it can take a few months.
Yeah, so it's great to start the process as soon as you can. Even before you feel ready, because then you just have your front foot forward. You're just ready to go when the time is right. So, I know that there's been some clients that you've been working with for, over 12 months, over 24 months. Sometimes the great thing is just to get your foot in the door, to work out your borrowing capacity, see how you would present to a lender, to see if you need to make any tweaks. But then once you're actually ready to go and have all of your ducks lined up in a row, it can actually happen fairly quickly from there. But there are some time frames that you've got to be aware of. Okay, let's do the next question. Question from Sarah. Could I apply for first home buyer grants or stamp duty concessions? Sarah wants to know if she can apply for first home owner grants or stamp duty concessions.
So great question. First of all, there is a relatively strict criteria on being eligible for the first home buyer concessions. Now they do change from between each grant and scheme. So again, we will assist with that, working out exactly what you're eligible for. Again, if it's say,
and you also have to get a spot as well in some of these. Like some of these, there's set allocations, and you have to be successful in getting a spot. So the best thing you can do in terms of securing a grant or a concession is to be working with a really reputable mortgage broker like the ones at Rise High Financial Solutions.
Spot on.
Excellent, Josh. Do you want to give us our next question?
Yep. All right, so we've got one here from Alexander. How does property value change over time? What can I do to increase my home's value?
Oh, I love this one.
That's a good one.
So property values definitely increase over time. Historically, we've seen that they generally double every 7 to 10 years on average. So definitely investing in property is a fantastic way to grow wealth over the long term, and it can really help you with your future as well. So I think the second part of the question was, how do you add value to a property? And we've seen lots of clients add value to property through renovations and improvements, taking an ugly duckling and turning it into something really lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen that happen a lot, Josh?
Yeah, for sure. And it doesn't have to be big major renovations either. It can be more cosmetic, just a new coat of paint or a few minor fix-ups.
Can make a big difference.
Exactly.
And for those that want to take it a bit further, adding on an extra bathroom or an extra bedroom. We've even seen some that have added on granny flats on the back to provide an extra source of income. There's lots of ways you can add value, and we do have an upcoming seminar about how to add value to properties that you might be interested in as well. So hopefully that's answered your question. Okay, Josh, let's see the next question.
All right, so we've got one here from Stanley. My parents want to help me buy my first home. How can they help me?
Oh, that's wonderful. So it's really great if you've got family members that can help you get into your first home. And there's so many different ways they can help you, isn't there, Josh?
Yeah, there is.
There's family guarantee. They can give you a gift of some, money to help with your deposit. There's just so many different ways they can help you. So the best thing to do would probably be to speak to your Rise Home mortgage broker. Understand what their situation is, what your situation is, and then look at all the options of what's available and make an informed decision. What do you think, Josh?
Pretty spot on, and you touched on probably the main two there, either gifted funds or a guarantor option. But again, it is specific to each individual. You want to make sure that it works for you, but also that your parents are comfortable with it as well.
Absolutely. And outside of those options, there are other options that we will also be exploring at our upcoming How to Buy Your First Home with Little or No Deposit seminar. So we hope to see you there. Okay, let's go to the next question. Oliver, what options do I have if I encounter financial difficulties? Obviously, when you're buying your first home, you never want to think about the problems and the financial difficulties, because hopefully if you've bought at the right price, you will know that you can afford it. But great question, Oliver. What advice would you have for Oliver, Josh?
Well, firstly, you definitely want to touch base with us firstly, whether or not we help set up your loan. We can then contact the bank and see if there's anything that we can do from our end to help. And probably the next step from there, if we can't assist, would be touching base with the bank.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that it's really important that if you are having financial difficulties or struggling with your repayments or your expenses, that you get on the front foot and tell us early, because we are on your team, we're on your side, we're supporting you, and there's always a solution. Everything is figure outable, and we find a way to work through it with you and help you to manage. But if you're trying to struggle on your own and you end up going into default with your mortgage repayments, that can have much more detrimental outcomes. So if you do find that you ever get to a point where it is becoming a bit tough, best to talk to us as soon as possible.
Definitely.
Okay, let's go with the next question.
Right, this is from Ethan. How can I afford to pay off my student loan while buying a house simultaneously?
Yeah, great question, Ethan. And obviously many people that go to university or do tertiary education do have student loans, and that can be a bit of a sticking point as well. If you do have a home loan and a student loan, it can be challenging to manage both. But over time, as the house value increases, you may find that there may be some benefits in withdrawing some equity from your home to pay down your student debt. You may also find that over time there may be some benefit, depending on which one has a more expensive interest rate. You can then determine, is it better to put money in your student loan? Is it better to put money in your home loan? It's going to be different for every person depending on how much they owe and what the rates are, but definitely something that your Rise Home mortgage broker can help you with, isn't it right, Josh?
For sure. And we also take those repayments into account as well with the affordability. So we want to make sure that we're not putting you in a position that you can't afford it by missing out on a particular loan or liability.
Yep, excellent. Okay, let's go with the next question. Isabella has asked, what should I look for during an open house? Great question, Isabella. I think that you really need to make sure that you're happy with the house. That's the first thing.
That's why you're there, I think.
And I think in particular that you're happy with the structure and the layout of the house, because the colour of the walls and cosmetic things can be fixed and improved fairly cheaply, but changing the layout and the structure of a house can be quite expensive. So you're looking for a house that has the layout and structure that you're happy with in the area that you're happy with, and it's also a great idea to get a building inspector involved, don't you think, Josh?
Yeah, for sure, because they'll, that's their area of expertise. They're doing that every day. They can definitely spot the things that the average person will miss. And that could be the difference between buying a house or not, is getting a good or positive building inspection report.
Some real estate agents are really good at hiding the problem areas of a property.
Yep.
So if you are buying an established house, you really want to make sure that you've got that building inspector that can really ensure that the house is structurally sound.
Yep.
And that there's no major issues that you're not aware of in going into the purchase. So that's really important.
Yep.
Okay, Josh, let's go through the next question.
So we've got one here from Julian. How do I know if I'm buying in a good neighbourhood?
Well, Julian, thanks for the question. How do you know if you're buying in a good neighbourhood? I think there's lots of research that you can do on a particular neighbourhood, but probably the best thing to do is just to spend time in that neighbourhood.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, most people tend to buy their first homes in areas that they're familiar with.
Yep.
And if it's an area that you're not familiar with that you're buying in, drive around that area. You know, go and visit the local cafes, visit the streets, just get a feel for it, because that's going to be much better indication than, you know, online research. But the online research can help to support your gut feel that you get when you're there.
Yeah, spot on. Because, you know, maybe some of that research might be a bit outdated. There might be some new facilities there that haven't been captured. So definitely worthwhile, you know, driving around the areas and getting a good feel for it.
Excellent. Okay, let's go with the next question. Okay, Nadia, how do I understand the terms of my mortgage agreement? Very good question, Nadia, because when you're buying your first home, the mortgage agreement might be one of the first legal contracts that you enter into. So it is quite a scary thing.
It is.
So how do you recommend that first home buyers go about understanding the terms of their agreement?
Yep. So as a part of our process, we try to sit down with you and actually go through the loan agreement with you. Firstly, to make sure that all the information is correct, because, you know, everyone's human. Sometimes the bank can make mistakes, whether it's loan amount or interest rates or whatever that might be. So we make sure that everything's correct, and then we sit down with you and make sure that you understand what you're signing.
Yeah.
The last thing that we want to do is get the loan set up for you when you don't really know how it's set up or how it works or what you're signing. So we run through that with you every step of the way to make sure that you actually understand what you're signing up for.
Excellent. Okay, let's go to the next question. Joshua asks, is it a good time to buy my first home right now?
Well, simply put, yes.
Absolutely. It's a really good time to buy. It's a difficult time to buy in the current market because there's low supply and high demand. But the best time to buy a property was always 20 years ago. The second best time is now, so that you can maximise your wealth creation from the property. Okay, Josh, next question.
Right. A question from... Cherish, What's involved in a home inspection and what to expect?
Okay, Cherish. So generally speaking, when you buy a first home, it's great to get a building inspector out to inspect the property, and normally they'll inspect the integrity of the structure of the property, plus they might do a pest inspection as well. So the great thing about this is that it will charge, there will be a cost associated with this, but it will give you a detailed and thorough report and highlight any issues that you need to be aware of, so that you're not going into the purchase unaware of major problems that might cost you a lot of money after settlement.
For sure.
So that it's really important to do the inspection. To have that peace of mind that you know that you're buying something that's structurally sound.
Exactly, because they're going to pick up on things that you can't. And yes, there's a fee involved, but it's worth that, knowing that what you're purchasing is good to go.
Excellent. Okay, let's go.
Right. Got a question here from Jonathan. What are the upfront costs for my first house? So that's a good one, Jonathan. So the main one, which not everyone understands, and that's fine, is stamp duty. So that is the big government charge that does make it a bit more difficult to purchase, but that is the main one. And obviously there's the recent government grants which might alleviate some or all of that. The other things to consider are conveyancer costs, so they help with the I guess, the legal transaction side of things, and whether there's application fees or any lender fees, we always run through them with you and make sure that you're fully aware of what all of the upfront costs are.
Yeah, we generally think that the upfront costs tend to be around 6% of the value of the property.
Yep.
So
in South Australia.
In South Australia, that's right. It is different in every state, but in South Australia, you need to allow about 6% of the value of the property for upfront costs, some of which can be incorporated in the loan. So that's great.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Calvin, how do I make a competitive offer? Thanks, Calvin. Having a pre-approval is a really good way to start.
Yeah, best start there.
Really being super confident on your budget, your borrowing capacity, and having a pre-approval definitely puts you ahead and gives you the confidence to negotiate. I also love how Josh and the team, they really help the buyers through the negotiations. So just having someone on the other end of the phone that you can talk to and say, oh, the agent said this, or the agent's doing this, what should I do? You know, navigating the games that the agents play, it's really good to have someone in your corner.
Yeah, for sure. The first step is getting that pre-approval in place, and then when you're putting in the offer, again, we can jump on the phone, run through, maybe adding in or taking out particular conditions can definitely help improve the strength of the offer.
Sounds good. Okay, let's go with Gia. Can I buy my first home with no deposit? Gia, yes, you can. And we will be explaining all the ways that you can do that. We've got 5 ways specifically where you can buy your first home with no deposit. And we'll be going through the details at our upcoming seminar, How to Buy Your First Home with Little or No Deposit, coming up. So click on the link below to register for that.
Beautiful. Next question?
Nearly there. We've got a few more questions to go.
That's right. One here from Jackson. How can I prepare for future costs like maintenance and repairs?
I really love the fact that Jonathan, is it Jonathan?
Jackson, I believe.
Oh, Jackson. I really love the fact that Jackson is thinking ahead.
For sure.
You know, it's really important to think ahead to future ongoing costs, and planning for them up front is really important in your budgeting process. That's also something that we can help you do at Rise High, and we'd love to help you with that. So well done.
Yep.
Okay, next question from Grace. How do I know if I'm financially ready to purchase my first home?
Good question there, Grace. Well, in some cases, you probably won't know until you start that first step, and that first step is reaching out to a broker, ideally at Rise High, and after getting some initial information from you, we can then run through what your borrowing capacity is with a number of banks, have a meeting, and then we can go through, okay, is now the best time, or maybe do you want to wait a few months? So that's where providing the initial information as well as that first meeting is really important.
And the best news is it's a free service.
Exactly.
So why wouldn't you do it?
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, next question from Amelia. How do I negotiate the best price for a house?
It's a good question.
I think one of the great things to have here is having a bit of market intel.
Yep.
So when you find the house that you want to buy, reaching out to your Rise High mortgage broker to get a free property report that shows you what the current owner paid for that house and when they bought it, what other houses around the area have sold for, and what this house is worth based on a desktop valuation that the valuers use. All of these things can be really powerful in helping you to make sure that you're paying the right price and not too much for the property that you're looking to purchase. So definitely utilise all of these free resources that are at your fingertips when you're a client of Rise High Financial Solutions. Okay, off we go, Josh. Next question.
So this one's from Mia. What are the benefits and drawbacks of buying versus renting?
Excellent, Mia. Well, obviously buying and renting are a little bit different.
Yep.
So when you're renting, you're effectively paying a weekly rent towards someone else's mortgage. And I guess when you're buying, you do have a mortgage. So you are still putting aside a regular, probably fortnightly or monthly repayment towards your mortgage, but it's going towards paying down the loan against your home.
Yep.
So the great thing about buying versus renting is that when you buy a home, every dollar that you're spending on your mortgage is actually making you richer.
Yep.
Whereas when you rent, every dollar that you spend on your rent is making you poorer.
Yep. And normally making someone else richer.
That's right.
Yep.
So it's also really lovely to have your own space when you're buying. You know, it's your own place. You won't have the landlord or property manager coming and inspecting your property every few months. Yep. You can put a picture anywhere you want on the wall without permission. So lots of pros, and it's important to understand the pros and cons, but definitely lots of advantages of buying when you're ready to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next question is from Justine. Do I need a conveyancer and what do they do? Great question, Justine.
Yep. So simply put, yes. When you are purchasing a home, you will need a conveyancer. So they handle, quote unquote, all the legal side of things. Liaising with the banks, making sure that everything with regards to the title is all correct and done as it should be.
Very important role.
Very important. So if a mistake happens there, you can really feel the effects of it for years to come. So you want to make sure that you find a good conveyancer.
And we can help you with that.
For sure.
Excellent. Okay, let's go through them. We have Gordon. How do I choose the right location? Well, Gordon, quite simply, I think have a look at the locations that you like.
Yep.
That's the first thing. The second thing is have a look at the locations you can afford.
Yes, because they might be very different.
They might be very different. And what you've got to realise here, Gordon, is that your first home doesn't have to be your forever home.
Yep.
So your first home may not be in your dream location. It may be in a different location, and it might be a stepping stone for building to your dream location in the future. But meeting with your Rise High mortgage broker, you'll soon find out what you can afford. You'll soon then realise, okay, well, this is where I can afford to buy. And then we start looking at locations from there. And as a client of Rise High, you can get access to free suburb reports. So if you want to get information about the suburb and the location, that's definitely something we can help with too.
For sure.
Okay, Josh, what's the next question?
All right, what do we have here? We've got one from Liliana. Are there any costs that I don't know about?
So Liliana, definitely you need to know about the upfront purchase costs, which equate to approximately 6% of the purchase price.
Yep.
And then you need to make sure that you factored in the ongoing costs of having your own home, which includes gas, electricity, council rates, water, all of those sorts of things that you need to think about. But these are all things that we can go through with you when we sit down and chat for your free consult.
Beautiful.
Okay. Ava, should I build or should I buy? Great question, Ava.
It is.
There's lots of benefits of pros and cons of both, isn't there?
Yes. So there's probably a few more government grants and schemes available for when you are wanting to build. I guess the major drawback is it can take a long period of time. So it can take anywhere from 1 to 2 years from when you actually engage with a builder to moving into that house, potentially even longer. So it can be a cheaper alternative, but if you're wanting to purchase something you might need to move in sooner rather than later, that's where buying an established property might be the better option for you.
Yep. So lots of pros and cons, see what you can afford and go from there. Okay. Next question from Lucas. Does my credit score impact me buying a house? Yes, well done, Lucas, for even knowing what a credit score is.
Exactly.
A credit score is important, isn't it, Josh?
It is very important. It is. So look, we have a lot of first home buyers where they actually don't even have a credit score. So your home loan might be the first bit of credit that you're receiving, and most of the banks are actually okay with that. It really starts to become a negative where if you're missing repayments or you have lots of inquiries for credit cards or personal loans, some of those sort of more unsecured loans, that your credit score can be affected, and it's definitely something that the banks will look at.
So I think there's 2 keys to protecting your credit score if you've got one. The first key is making sure you always meet your obligations when they fall due. So if you've got bills to pay them on the due date or before. The second one is not to, constantly do pre-approvals or apply for credit cards or apply for buy now, pay later, because every time you do that, it does leave a mark on your credit report. And if you've got too many of those in a short period of time, it can be detrimental. Once again, if you're worried, come and check with us. We can help you solve that problem. Okay, Josh, next question.
Got one here from Bridget. what documents are required during the home buying process?
Well, there is quite a few documents that we need. Because the banks are trying to look at your income, your expenses, your assets and your liabilities. So they want things like pay slips, bank statements,
copies of ID. And it does change if you're self-employed as well. So we might need a few more documents, financials and tax returns. But they're more of the general. We need to show that you're earning income. So some sort of income document, ID and bank statements. That's the sort of foundation. Every bank requires something different though.
Yeah. Speak to your mortgage broker.
Exactly.
Okay, let's have a look. Ella asked, should I buy a starter home or wait until I can afford my dream home? Ella, my recommendation is that you get into the property market as soon as you can with whatever home you can afford. So that might mean that you might want to buy something a little bit cheaper. It might not be the suburb or the house that you want to live in long term, but having a stepping stone house is going to be much better than trying to save your dream house as your first home. Do you agree, Josh?
For sure. So by the time you might save up the amount required for your dream home, well, that property has probably increased in value more than you've been able to save.
Absolutely. And we're seeing it's becoming very popular to pursue rent vesting, which means that people are not able to afford to buy where they want to live. So they're buying an investment property in an area that they can afford, and they're renting in the area that they want to live in. So that's another option that you can explore that might enable you to live where you want and still be in the property market.
For sure.
Okay, Josh, next question.
Right. Question here from Wayne. How much deposit do I need? So
Wayne,
it does depend.
It does depend, yes. And you should come along to our How to Buy Your First Home with Little or No Deposit. Because you can actually buy a home with no deposit, but having a deposit and having a big deposit definitely is a huge advantage.
Yeah, for sure.
So come along to our seminar, register on the link below. Okay, next question. Liam Parker, how can I make my offer stand out?
Great question. Again, probably the first point of call would be to touch base with your Rise Higher mortgage broker. We can run through the actual offer form and work out how can we make that more appealing. Having a pre-approval is massive because it shows the agent and the vendor that you are keen, ready to go, and the bank's actually ticked off your finance.
Excellent. Okay, next question. Jordan, how do I improve my credit score?
It's a good question. So some people, they might not even have a credit score to begin with. So if that's something that you're really worried about, it could be something like opening a small credit card, making the repayments on time. That's going to be one thing to help improve your credit score. But realistically, it's trying to minimise...
Your credit score's probably fine if you haven't been in default or late with repayments.
Exactly.
Before you worry about your credit score, come and speak to us and let's see where you're sitting. That's unlikely to be the thing that's going to hold you back from buying your first home, unless you've had some previous financial hardships. Okay, we're down to the last 3 questions. Question from Nicholas, how much can I afford to borrow?
It's a good one. So again, it does come back to everyone's individual situation. What you can afford to borrow is based essentially on your income, expenses, and any liabilities that you have. So that's the main things that the banks look at. But every bank does treat each income differently. So that's where we can provide those options for you. The bank that you've been banking with for 10 years, they might not be the best option for you. So
that's right.
Come see your broker. We've got 60 or 70 lenders on our panel, and we can help find the right home for you.
Absolutely. Okay. Question from Sienna. What should I consider if I plan to sell the home in the next 5 to 10 years? Great question, Sienna, and it's great that you're thinking ahead.
Sure.
It's really, really good when you're buying your first home to have a bit of a plan for it. You know, how long do you see yourself living in this home? What's your plan for it when you want to move out of the home? And obviously selling the home in 5 to 10 years is an option. even better option to have a look at is, can you afford to keep it as an
Yep.
investment property and buy a new home to live in? And having all of these discussions with your Rise High mortgage broker up front will mean that you have more options and choices at that point in the future. It's hard to know exactly what your situation and circumstances will be in 5 to 10 years' time, but it's best to set up the structure that's going to maximise your options and your opportunities at that point. So don't close the door to think that you're definitely going to sell it, because there may be an opportunity that you can convert it into an investment property and prepare for your future.
Yep.
Do you agree, Josh?
Spot on.
Excellent. Do you want to do the honours for the very last
All right,
question?
last one here we've got from Sasha. What are my financing options?
Oh, there's lots, Sasha. So you can choose to get a variable loan, which
Yep.
means the interest rate can change from month to month.
Yep.
You can get a fixed rate loan, which means that it's locked into a certain rate for a certain period of time. There's lots of different features you can get on loans, like redraw and offset. And
Yep.
what do you find are really popular features, Josh?
So popular features that we're seeing, the big one is the offset account. So
Yes, that can be
allows you to
very powerful.
It can be for sure. Provides a lot of flexibility with your loan as well. Redraw is the other big one there.
And with over 70 lenders on our panel, there are lots of financing options.
Yep.
So if you're not the right fit for one of them, it doesn't matter. There's other options that you would be the right fit for.
Exactly.
So come and speak to your Rise High mortgage broker and we will find a solution for you.
Yep.
That concludes our Q&A for today. Thank you so much to all of you for sending in your questions. We hope that you enjoyed going through those answers. We are hosting a seminar, How to Buy Your First Home with Little or No Deposit, coming up very, very soon. You can click on the link below to register, and we would really love to see you there, where we can answer even more of your questions. Thanks so much, Josh. Thanks for
Thank
tuning
you.
in. We'll see you again next time. Bye.